Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me on another podcast episode. I'm just going to jump right into this. And today, what I want to do is I wanted to talk to the people that are going through something that just sucks. People that are going through a situation which seems like you can't get out of, that has no purpose, no point, no light at the end of the tunnel, no end in sight. You're basically a hamster in a hamster wheel spinning over and over, going nowhere. You might feel like all of those things are happening to you at once. What that actually is a process. You're in the middle of a process right now. And years ago, something that I came up with, and this is probably in my mid-20s, I came up with this phrase that behind every process, there is a promise waiting for you, whether you realize it or not. See, everything that we do has a resulting promise at the end of it. Even if it seems like we're not doing nothing, even if it seems like nothing good is happening, if it seems like nothing is happening at all, that's still a process with a promise at the end of it. If I choose to sit on the couch and do nothing all day, that's a process that has a promise at the end. The promise there is probably that I'm just going to be more tired and want to lay around more. Seems like nothing's going on. Turns out something very much was going on, and there was a promise waiting at the end of it. If I choose to smoke every day, that's a process that's going to have a promise at the end of it. If I choose to run every day, that's a process with a promise at the end of it. But we're not going to be talking about smoking and running and sitting around doing nothing. We're talking about people that are going through stuff that is life-changing. That seems like you're drowning in quicksand and can't seem to get out of it. Again, that hamster wheel. You're the hamster in it that just seems like you're going to keep running over and over and over, going nowhere. It's like What About Bob, the movie where he keeps waking up and the same thing happens to him every single day. That's what this feels like. The good news is, it's not happening for no reason. That's a process. And the good news is that every process has a resulting promise at the end of it. The question is what does that promise look like? You may not want to go through that process if you don't want the promise at the end of it, but you get to dictate the promise by how you approach the process. The way that you handle your particular situation, whether it's family, money, sex, love, work, friends, whatever the thing is, the way that you decide to approach that and navigate that will change the way that your promise ends up coming into fruition. I can choose to run every single day for a year with no effort whatsoever versus running every single day for a year with lots of effort. My process is the same there, but my approach is different. My effort and energy levels are different. I'm handling it differently, which means that my promise at the end of it is going to be different for each one of those situations. There is no copy paste for a promise. It all depends on how you look at it, how you approach it, and if you're willing to look at it honestly and say, okay, I'm in the middle of this thing. Here's what I can do to make this better. It's a funny thing. Whenever I was looking back over my life thinking about doing this particular episode, it was very obvious to me that I've spent a lot of my life, instead of reflecting on the process, I've spent so much time looking at the promise at the end of it. I would find myself in the middle of these promises, these horrible situations that were a result of my bad handling of the process before it, but I didn't look at that part of it. All I looked at was the promise at the end. And oh my God, woe is me. Anybody that would listen to me, somebody come and look at the victim. Hey, have you heard how bad I was treated? Hey, have you heard how bad this life has it out for me? Anybody that would listen, I would say that to. But what I was missing was that didn't just happen because I happened to be alive. It happened as a result of how I would handle the processes that led to that. I was looking at the two. I wasn't looking at the 1 + 1. And so I would try to get anybody's ear that I could and explain to them how life has it out for me. Why else would this stuff be happening? Why would things be so hard unless I'm cursed, unless I'm unlucky? Meanwhile, I was leaving behind a trail of just horrible decisions, bad prioritization, and lack of responsibility that in reality was the reason I was in the place that I was in. It had nothing to do with bad luck or the universe just hating me. But that doesn't make for a very good victim story. It's hard to get people to feel sympathetic for you when you take responsibility for the crappy situation that you're in. It also means that once you come to that realization, you've got to do work to make sure that that doesn't happen to you again. And we are not people that like doing too much work. So what will happen is we continue to play the victim card, ignore what actually got us into that situation to start with, do it all over again, repeat the same mistakes, and then again play the victim card, trying to get anybody to pay attention to you and feel sorry for you that you can, so you don't feel as bad about how you let yourself down. So I just want to take some time just to remind you that the thing that you're going through is not pointless. There is a purpose at the end of it. There is a promise at the end of your process. Even at the darkest moments, even when it seems like you are on your back with no ability to get up, there is still a promise at the end of the thing that you are going through. What you don't want to do is keep laying there. Keeping laying there will make sure that the promise that you receive will match the effort and the energy that you put into how you handled that process. Now, if you find yourself already in the promise part of that, you've already missed the process. You're already in the middle of earning the reward, whether good or bad, for the actions and efforts that you have been putting into your life that have led you to this point. What do? So when you look back and say, where did I blow it? What actually got me here? You got to stop playing the blame card. You have to start looking at, well, turns out maybe I am actually responsible. I am the one that got me here. There is nobody else at fault except me. And what that will do is it will put you into a position of A, you're not a victim anymore, but B, so whenever this next opportunity comes around with the same process sitting in front of you, then you'll know a little bit more. You'll have a little bit more underneath your knowledge belt to go like, wait a minute, like I've been through this and I took responsibility for this once. I took action on this once. I put effort into this once. And even though it may not have gone the way that I wanted it to, maybe I didn't get the promise that I wanted to the first time, I am going to get it this time. I've been through a lot of things in my life that seemed like they were impossible to overcome. And a lot of times I did not overcome them. I allowed myself to sink into that muck and mire and then found myself in the middle of promises that seemed like I was cursed. There's no other explanation for it. Until I started looking at things, looking at it especially in retrospect, and you go, wait a minute, maybe there was something else in the middle of this. Maybe there was a process here that I should have done better with. And then once you realize that they're all processes that you can do better with, all of a sudden it makes it seem different when you know that if they're all processes, then there's a bunch of promises waiting on the other side too. The question is, what are those promises going to look like? And that part actually is up to you.